Hello everyone. Happy Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. I am in Kennewick, Washington, one of the Tri-Cities that they call it in southeast Washington, the state of Washington. Temperatures are, I don't know, 63, 65, something like that right now, on target for lower 80s today. And I like this area because there's really not any humidity. It's very low in humidity compared to, say, Texas, where it's a lot more humid down there. So welcome, happy Wednesday to everyone from around the world. The lawn is being watered behind me. I don't know if you can see that or not. And it's kind of interesting. There's like a patch of blue sky that you can see like right there, like an open heaven, like a portal. That is right there, which is kind of cool looking. I like clouds and formulations of clouds and heavenly hosts and angels and all that cool stuff. So anyways, let me get this shared with a couple of my page and my group and we'll get started. Hopefully you're having a good Wednesday wherever you are. I'm enjoying what feels like summer after coming out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where it was 20s and 30s and snowing last week. So yesterday I was listening to a YouTube from Mark Taylor where he was talking about various things, a lot of things, but one of the things he talked about was essentially how when the government came out, when Eisenhower came out with the 501c3, and how it was really intentionally targeted towards the churches so that the pastors wouldn't be able to speak freely against political things. And they were trying to muffle, at the time, Eisenhower, I guess it came out that he was involved in Freemasons. He was like a 33rd degree Mason. And so that was trying to be muffled and so forth. And how David Taylor talked about how when Trump took over, he basically did some type of change where he was allowing the pastors to have free reign to talk about, political things, and how he thought they would be very excited about that, and how he was speaking at some type of conference with all these pastors, and like no one even clapped. And I was like, what? I'd be yelling and screaming, because I remember when the Lord had me start my ministry back in, I guess it was around 2012, 2013, he wanted me to have it to be a 501c3. He said to start it off as a 501c3, and then he would let me know when to change it, because there are other avenues out there that would not block me from saying what needed to be said. And so once Trump had been put into place, he said that you are protected. You can talk about whatever. You're not going to be, that's who it was, Johnson, the Johnson Amendment. Yeah, it wasn't Eisenhower, it was Johnson. Sorry about that, Mr. Eisenhower, but it was Johnson that was the 33rd degree Mason. And so essentially the Lord said to focus on whatever the Lord tells me to talk about, demons, deliverance, Freemasons, all this stuff, and to not be concerned because there's protection when Trump is in charge of our country in America. And so that's what I've been doing, is focused on that. And I do expect him to be reelected in 2020. And we will see another 4 years. And I believe that when he's reelected, that there is going to be a lot of the bad stuff come to light that he's going to be exposing, both in the church and in the political scheme. And I know that I came from a place just last week where I learned some things that were really disheartening about those in charge of the local city and government in the area that I was at before. Orgies being done with young children and so forth, and then the people looking the other way and permitting it, just horrible stuff. And so the Lord wants us to speak the truth, and the challenge has been is for the last however many years since the 501c3s, the Johnson Amendment has put a muffle on the pastors now need to stand up for righteousness and to not be afraid of speaking the truth. And that's what I've seen, in my ministry, is the challenges of going into the churches and speaking the truth about these spirits and how it operates and how these people control and manipulate and dominate and lie and twist the truth and all that stuff. So I have to speak truth. And of course, some of the larger churches do not want that to be spoken, and it's all demonic, the demonic control of those, and fear and worry about people leaving their churches with tithes and so forth if we talk about demons. But demons and deliverance is the true avenue of getting people to be pure and spotless, and that's where the Lord wants us to go. So I really believe that over the next 4 years, in fact, there was a prophecy by Kim Clement that there would be a 4-year period of time in America where Jezebel would be on her knees. And I really believe that that is what we're getting set up for here from 2020 for the next 4 years, is that there's going to be a lot of exposure. And you're going to either have to make the decision to get set free and delivered, or you're going to be found out. And you may be humbled by the Lord and no longer being in leadership positions that people are in. So anyway, it's a good thing, because we shouldn't be operating in listening to the demonic spirits, Jezebel, Leviathan, Ahab, and we shouldn't be cowering down to those demonic spirits. We need to be bold, we need to be confident, we need to speak the truth. That's all about these true freedom conferences that the Lord's wanting me to set up and to start doing with my friends Dominic and Robia and Christopher Milo. It's important for us to start traveling around the country and getting people truly delivered. If the church isn't going to allow us to do this, then we will go in, to other avenues, hotels and so forth, in order to get this done. So it's important for us to have a pure and spotless bride. There's too many people in the churches that are playing churches, that are living in the sins, the hidden sins that they should not be operating in. There's people that are in witchcraft, that are in the churches, that are trying to control and manipulate. And there are people that are not healthy, that are in ministries, that are in churches, that are lying about good ministries and good people, trying to keep people from that. So anyway, so last night, the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to write a blog, which I hadn't done for a couple of weeks. Again, I don't really like writing that much, but I know we have to in order to do that. I'd rather be talking. I enjoy talking easier. So anyways, I wrote a blog, and it's titled, The Lord Wants His People to Stand Up for Righteousness. And I'm just going to read it, and then I'll pause throughout reading it, whatever the Holy Spirit tells me to pause, to maybe drill down a little bit deeper into that. So here we go. The Lord wants His people to stand up for righteousness. The state of the church has compromised on the Lord's high value of righteousness, purity, and humility. We have truly bowed down to the spirit of Jezebel, Leviathan, and tolerated people who complain and yell the loudest and take offense to get their way and tell us what to do. The pastors have caved in on messages to challenge their people to a life of godliness by giving them feel-good messages of hyper grace, so they won't get offended and walk out their doors and take their tithes with them. The Ahabs are afraid of standing up for God and instead tolerate Jezebel to control their every moves. Pastors are afraid of men and women instead of fearing God. They have watered down their messages to make everyone feel good, accepting homosexuality, abortion, and sex trafficking instead of speaking messages from the Lord of righteousness. They have prophets who speak feel-good words over their people instead of telling them to get delivered from the demons that they have allowed to enter their minds and to repent and humble themselves. They have allowed witches and warlocks to operate in their churches instead of confronting them in love and getting them delivered. They would rather have productions of concert level music, and milk messages instead of preaching sermons to walk in purity in the Lord. God did not call the spiritual leaders to be popular, but to preach messages that would truly have an impact on a person in order to truly be a Christ follower on earth to help more people get to heaven. You think about that, I'll stop right there. Think about Jeremiah, the weeping prophet, where he had to confront the people for the sins that they were in. And he wept and he cried because no one liked it. No one loved listening to his messages. They wanted to hear all the prophets that were speaking messages of blessings, that everything was going to be good, everything's going to be great, and keep on doing what you're doing. And that wasn't what God wanted them to say. They weren't the real prophets. They were the fake prophets. And there's fake prophets that are out there. They just want to tickle our ears. There's fake messages out there in the churches in large part where they just want to have people come in, have a great worship for 20 minutes, sing 4 songs, and then sit down and hear a milk message that doesn't convict them for the sins that they're operating in. And they're not speaking, the truth. They want to simply say, well, if you need to have your spouse that you're striving and fighting with, if you don't get along with them, then essentially we don't know what to do. But I guess you can go ahead and get a divorce, and then you can get remarried and have the very same situation again. They don't talk about the deliverance, which is the root issue. That's why it's so important for these pastors and those in leadership and ministries to do deliverances. For if they don't do that, they're going to have a mess on their hands. I don't care how much you might love people. I love people, but I'm also trying to help them get to the other side and get them set free. That's the root issue, is there's too many people out there that are listening to the demonic voices, and the pastors aren't talking about it. So therefore, they're just giving you milk messages instead of messages that can change your life and save your marriages. So Matthew 7:21 through 23, New King James Version says, I never knew you, is how it's titled. 21, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. 22, many will say to me in that day. So not just a few, but many. Many people will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name? So do you know people that prophesy? Do you prophesy? I know a lot of people that prophesy. Cast out demons in your name. How many of you cast out demons? That's, I think most people that follow my ministry have learned that that's a huge important part of deliverance, of course, is to be getting people delivered from demons. But in a lot of ministries, they don't even talk about demons. I'm like, Christians can't even have demons. I'm like, really? And then I will declare, and done many wonders in your name, and then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Lawlessness is sin. So I make the point in the blog, I said, how many demons have you cast out in Jesus' name? Prior to 2009, I didn't cast out any demons. So you would have thought that most people, if they're casting out demons, well, assuredly they're going to go to heaven. They're doing the Lord's work. But I know a lot of people who are in deliverance and inner healing ministries and intercessors who have the spirits of Jezebel and Leviathan. They're controlling, they're manipulative, they're prideful, they're arrogant, they're not delivered themselves. They just like to have the positions and the title to go along with it to make them look good. So that's why it's so important for them to get delivered. I had a grandmother of my own that operated, and she did deliverances in her home. She essentially got broken off from her church that she was good friends with the senior pastor. I suspect it was because she was trying to take it over and control it, and then he ended up saying, you got to go. And then she never went back to the church. She ended up having church in her own home, and my grandfather was an Ahab. So she definitely was operating in the spirit of Jezebel. So how many demons have you cast out in Jesus' name? And that still is not good enough if you don't have the heart and mind of Christ and have his fruit evident in your life. So who are you behind closed doors? Who are you on a regular basis? How do you treat your spouse? How do you treat your children? Now, oftentimes children can be a barometer of their own parent. Now, it's not carte blanche, only because you could be married to a person that has the Jezebel spirit that has hurt your children deeply, and then your children want to have nothing to do with the Lord. And then they end up turning into the Jezebel, because that's the Jezebel's desire, is to hurt their own kind, their own children, to turn them into Jezebels and to have them turn against God. That's how Jezebel works, is it gets hurt by father wounds, mother wounds, But if you are the person that has the spirit of Jezebel, then you need to repent for that. You need to change your heart. You need to change your mind. You need to become more Christ-like. So Galatians 5:16 through 28, I'll go on to read, walking in the Spirit, says, starting with verse 16, I say then, walk in the Spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit, and the Spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law. Now the works of the flesh are evident, which are, and again, we need to read all of these. We don't just read the first couple and say, well, gee, I'm not doing that, so I don't operate in the flesh. So adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lewdness, idolatry, sorcery. Sorcery would be witchcraft, which is Jezebel, which is controlling other people. Hatred. A lot of people that have Jezebel have a lot of anger and hatred in them. Contentions. That means they're striving and arguing. Jealousies. That's Jezebel. Outbursts of wrath. Jezebel knows if it has an outburst of wrath, it's going to instill fear in its victims, and they will normally get their way by doing that. Selfish ambitions. Jezebel is very selfish. Selfish, selfish, selfish. Dissensions, which is not agreeing. You know, you can't really agree with the Jezebel because the Jezebel, I mean, if you are a godly person, because the Jezebel is going to be making decisions that are ungodly. Heresies, envy, and all these are Jezebel. So again, that is why the Lord is wanting us to purify ourselves, to get delivered. That's why it's so extremely important for us to focus on deliverance before Christ comes back. That is the last great movement that needs to happen, needs to occur before Jesus comes back, because there's way too many people that are not of the Lord and are not headed to heaven. Okay, drunkenness, revelries, murders, and the like, which I tell you beforehand, just as I told you in the times past, that those who practice such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. So that's the point the Lord wants to make and drive home, is if we are operating as a normal basis in these behavior characteristics on a regular basis, we're not headed to heaven. We're not going to inherit the kingdom of God. So if you are constantly in anger and contention and jealous and have outbursts of wrath and are selfish and envious, you know, all that stuff, wanting to control other people, that's Jezebel, then you're not headed to heaven. It says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, which is patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness. You can kind of sense a person has a gentle spirit versus one that's a controlling and a yelling and a screaming. I mean, that's pretty easy to see and to discern. You know, when people get delivered, they change their personalities. Oftentimes people say, well, I'm just a strong woman. I'm just a strong man. No, you are an angry, controlling person that has the spirit of Jezebel, but you need to get delivered. Then your personality changes. It softens. You become more loving. People want to be around you. Your voice becomes softer, more gentler versus yelling and screaming, and your face is contorting with anger all the time. But gentleness, self-control, faithfulness. Again, I'll read love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no law. And those who are Christ's have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. So again, if you are Christ, you have Christ in your heart, then fruit's going to be evident. It's going to be all those things we just described. If you don't have Christ truly, like in your soul, which is your mind, will, and emotions, your mind, will, and emotions are being taken over by the enemy, then you're going to be practicing those things that are not of Christ. You've not crucified the flesh yet. And you are not headed to heaven yet. Even though you may have said, well, gee, I asked Jesus into my heart. Well, that's fine and dandy. How do you behave on a regular basis? If we talk to your spouse and children, what would they say? People that were closest to you, you know? So it's important for us to get our soul wounds healed so that we can truly operate in the spirit and not the flesh. So, and again, I know that sometimes children have been turned against the parents that are the more loving one by a Jezebel. So that's the caveat. I know that every situation is a little different, but I do know that those that are the stronger Jezebels will normally not have good relationship with their children, you know. So, all right, if we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, which is pride. We don't want to be prideful. Pride is bad. In fact, I came from this church, or came from back in Idaho Falls, and one of the pastors there was preaching a message saying pride was good. I'm like, what? What Bible are you reading? It's like, are you crazy? It's like, pride is not good. Pride is bad. How many verses are there in the Bible that come against that? That Lord's going to humble you from the pride. Leviathan is bad. You know, king over all the children of pride, you know, got kicked Satan out of heaven, Lucifer out of heaven. Why? Because he was prideful. He was arrogant. It's bad. So again, let us not become conceited, not become prideful, provoking one another. Again, that's what Jezebel Leviathan does, is it provokes and provokes and provokes another person to get them to be angry. So, envying one another. Again, that's Jezebel. So I'll go on to read more of my blog after I take a drink. In fact, you can still see a little bit of blue, like right there in the clouds. So cool. Feels so nice out here too. Okay, the church has bowed down to the enemy and families are a mess. Divorce is at an all-time high. Marriages are in misery. Children are a mess. Many good ministries are being attacked by demon-controlled people in other ministries. The demons are winning because the church is afraid to talk about them. When the church only professes that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. You know, how many times have you ever heard that? No weapon formed against us will prosper. Without explaining to the Christian why their mind is filled with 60,000 or 80,000 negative thoughts a day. Remember, that was such a huge revelation when the Lord told me that Monday. He's like, look up how many negative thoughts a day a person gets. And the National Science Foundation said that it was anywhere between like 50 to 80,000 negative, well, 80% of the thoughts were negative and 95% were repetitive. But 80% of 50 to 80,000 thoughts a day a person has, and 80% are negative, that's the enemy. That was such a blown away moment for me, because I was guessing maybe we had 1,000 thoughts a day. Not this. But then what the Lord showed me is when people get delivered, those number of tormenting thoughts come way down, way down. You know, maybe you would only have, 12,000, 10,000 thoughts a day once you get delivered. I mean, I know with my own self, I'm driving down the road, I can discern any thought that comes in because it's apparent to me. It's like my mind is clean as far as when there's thoughts coming to me, but then I can pick up on it whenever a thought does come in. And again, it's like almost never do I hear the thought from the enemy anymore. And those that have gotten delivered have the same thing. I'll be interviewing actually tomorrow Dawn Casanova-Leniger, where I'm at her home right now. Beautiful home, and she's going to talk about the process, the journey from when she went through the deliverance and how she is today, and how her number of thoughts that were tormented from the enemy has just like gone. And now she hears the Lord like all the time, and then she has dreams all the time, every night. I have dreams, normally 2 or 3 dreams a night, and that's how a normal Christian, or regular, a real Christian would be when they get delivered, when they get set freed, and again, you could have witches cursing you and so forth that you have to contend with. You have to add that into the factoring, unfortunately. Okay, let me go back to this. So, without explaining to a Christian why their mind is filled with 60,000 negative thoughts a day from the enemy with no solution to change, then we are fighting a losing battle. I was recently in a city where the mayor and many other political and church leaders were involved in sexual orgies in parks with innocent children, where the state police finally caught them, but no punishment was carried out on them. That's awful. That's horrible. And some of them were like, they're church leaders, looking the other way. Well, Boys will be boys, or girls will be girls, whatever. Horrible. When the church and leaders do nothing, permit sin, and look the other way, the Lord's anger rises up against. There are witches and warlocks who have thousands of people following them on social media, and respected leaders in ministry who endorse them. That's awful too. Horrible. It's like, who do you trust? Who can you trust? It's like, Lord, show me the truth. Now, the Lord will normally show people through dreams or visions the truth. So pay attention to that. So what is the solution? Question mark. Deliverance. Ding, 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 ding. We need people to stand up to the enemy and humble themselves and look in the mirror and ask God to do whatever it takes for them to change. We need to talk about true forgiveness of all who have done horrible things to us over our lifetimes. Again, that's how the Lord, or that's how the enemy does it, is he tries to hurt us through people as we're growing up. First, as we're young, and then through relationships that we have with other people. That's how the enemy comes in and does it. He wants to hurt us and hurt us deeply. He wants us to be betrayed by our spouses. He wants us to have relationships where someone says something to you that really hurts you so that you can have anger towards them and bitterness. And then they have a legal right to keep tormenting you. That's why you have to constantly stay clean. Like the example the Lord gave me when I washed my car. He said it's a constant process. You have to continue to forgive people because you're going to have new people today and tomorrow. They're going to hurt you. You know, oftentimes it's your own family members. So sometimes you have to love your family from afar and say, okay, Mom, okay, Grandma, I will talk to you until you start to be mean to me, and then I'm going to hang up. I'm not going to tolerate it. So we need to talk about true forgiveness of all who have done horrible things to us over our lifetimes. We need to repent for what we have done to hurt others. We need to repent for our pride. We also need to repent for our anger, because oftentimes we get very angry when we think about all these people that have done us wrong and did bad things to us. Then we can take away the legal right of the enemy to torment our thoughts throughout the day. Then we can finally get set free and walk the victorious life in Christ that God wants for us. We can then walk in the full authority of Christ when we no longer hear the enemy's tormenting thoughts 60,000 times a day. Can you imagine how many people have these tormenting thoughts? And I feel so sorry, you know, for those, because I know some people that they are refusing to get delivered. And the Lord oftentimes will say, well, really? Okay, have you read Revelations 2:18 through 23? You know, I will put you on a sick bed and kill your children, those that you teach, because he's not messing around. And so some people that are operating in the Jezebel Leviathan spirits, they're going to get sick because the Lord's trying to get their attention to say, knock it off, get delivered, humble yourself. You know, but I do feel compassion for those people, even though a lot of them are operating in very evil things. But they do need to have our compassion. Those that are narcissists, it's really hard sometimes because they're so self-absorbed and selfish. But if you could ever get into their mind, you would not want to be there very long, I am sure. I remember my ex-wife said that she could hear the enemy telling her bad things about me, like all the time. And I'm like, hello, if you know it's the enemy, why are you listening? You know, I did not know at the time how to get delivered, how to get her delivered, but I do now. And actually, when I separated, I finally figured out it was, the Lord told me Jezebel Leviathan, and then I let her know. And she refused to get delivered. So maybe someday she will. I hope all people get delivered before it's too late, you know, before they die, because that would be too late at that point. You know, God's very patient. He's very patient, very loving, and he, you know, those that are in charge of ministries and churches that are in leadership that are hurting his people with Jezebel within them. It's so bad. It's so bad. You know, I know the church, the pastor that, you know, essentially kicked me out of the church after I finally separated from my wife and tried to help her get delivered. He completely sided with her, and he had Jezebel himself, and the Lord ultimately shut the church down, but not for about a year and a half. You know, I had to go through where I could have been really bitter and angry towards him, and he was very prideful, very arrogant, you know, and I didn't. I just gave him to the Lord, and it's like, man, this is really hard, Lord. And the Lord's like, yeah, it goes, this is not, you know, between you and your wife or you and your church. This is between you and the rest of the world. This is the ministry that I'm setting you up to come into. That is why you're going to be going through some pretty extreme stuff, and it's going to get worse as you know, just like Jesus, you know, they hated him, the leaders in the church, because they had demons, you know. So there's leaders in the church today that's going to hate me, that do hate me. And I'm like, really? How can you hate me? I'm a kid from a cornfield. I'm just trying to help you. I'm trying to help you get set free. You know, we're supposed to cast out demons, it says. You know, hello. Demons look like this. And you describe them, and then when they get described, they don't like it, because then the demons in them get found out. But I'm like, hello, it's for your own good. I want you to go to heaven. Don't bite me like a beaten up pit bull, you know. So anyways, let me go back. Here we go. So wake up, church pastors and leaders. Focus on true life-changing messages that change lives from fear, anger, pride, lying, and sinful behaviors to peace, joy, love, purity, and righteousness. Playing music and feeling good on Sunday mornings does not change people's lives to getting them set free from the tormenting thoughts pummeling them every day, like every minute of every day. I mean, you think about that. It's something like, what was it, 2,000 to 3,000 thoughts an hour that are going to be pummeling people, that are going to be from the enemy. That's a heck of a lot of thoughts. Remember, I interviewed some couples here lately, and a lot of them said before they got delivered that their heads were spinning. You know, it never ended, you know, the thoughts. All right, truth. Truth sets the prisoners free. And again, it's up to the person to receive it, absolutely. We can't make a person, we can't override their free will. I wish we could. You know, we can pray that the scales are removed from their eyes. You know, I fasted 21 days with only water. That was the hardest thing I ever did. And it was not fun. That's for sure, because I know the enemy of my wife was trying to get me to stop actually doing the fast, like after, I don't know, a few days. And I'm like, really? You know, this is hard enough to have your support, let alone to have you come against and try to stop me. But it's the enemy within her that was trying to stop me. So anyways, I've seen tens of thousands around the world whose lives have been changed dramatically, and many have saved their marriages from divorce. True revival starts with deliverance from the enemy's thoughts. And that is the key. A lot of people are like, we want revival, we want revival. Well, revival starts with humbling ourselves and repenting for the sins that we've done. You know, and that is what true revival is. And that's the only way that it can last, is we have to essentially go through deliverance, and that is repenting. You know, when a person comes to Christ, the first thing that they should do is to go through deliverance, which is forgiving everybody that hurt them. You know, and if a lot of times people don't do that, you know, majority of the time people don't do that. They come into the church, they within I don't know, within weeks they start to disciple them and start to train them, but then they still have the thoughts from the enemy there tormenting them. And we have to remove the legal right of the enemy to torment them in their thoughts, because all Jezebel Leviathan then wants to do is, in fact, I remember I interviewed this one woman from Detroit, and she now has a ministry out in LA, and she said that she was a Jezebel outside of the church. Once she gave her life to Christ, then she became the Jezebel inside the church. And that was so revelatory. It's like, it's so true. It's like now you're in the church, which is where Jezebel wants to operate truly, and come against those that are good people to try to hurt them, and to stop the Holy Spirit from truly flowing, and have a counterfeit Holy Spirit from flowing. So it's important for us to understand that if you come into the church and you've not gone through deliverance, you can still operate then in the spirit of Jezebel and Leviathan, and that's what Jezebel wants to do, is get into the church and take over and start being a leader, and then telling other people what to do, and then hurting them. So, all right. I have talked to thousands of husbands and wives around the world who are desperate to get their spouses delivered, but their own church has no clue, because they have never been taught about the spirits of Jezebel, Leviathan, and Ahab, or don't believe in demons, or don't believe that Christians can have demons. Without knowing how to get people delivered, they will never get to the root issue. Just attending a church, playing nice music, and hearing a message that doesn't address how real the demonic thoughts are only causes more to get divorced. Then the people get remarried to others who hear demonic voices, and they go through more misery. That's why they repeat it over and over and over again. That's why the Ahabs will go back and get drawn into a person that has a controlling Jezebel spirit, and before you know it, they're in misery again. Or that's why a person that has Jezebel, once they go through a divorce, will then target a person that they can control, and then they get back into the same striving and arguing again, and they don't get it fixed. So this is the root issue. This is the root issues of all divorces. It's Jezebel, Leviathan, and Ahab. All right. When the churches are not afraid to talk about the root issues behind all strife, we will see major life changes, and marriages saved, and new ministries birthed that are healthy. We must realize that the enemy is real and describe what he does so we know how to overcome. When people get set freed, they become more Christ-like and godly. Righteousness and purity is what a true Christian looks like. They love, are honest, pure, have joy, childlike innocence, kindness, patience, and people actually want to be around them. How many times have you been around people that operate in the spirits of Jezebel, Leviathan, and like, you don't want to be around them because they're very prideful, they want to tell you what to do, they're arrogant, they're just not fun people, you know, and you can oftentimes look at their spouse, and their spouse are like, you know, if they're men that are Ahabs, they're just, you know, very quiet and soft-spoken, and then if the wife has Ahab and the man has Jezebel, then the wife's very beaten down oftentimes, and like they've been beaten verbally thousands of times, which they probably have. So anyways, the Lord wants his people to stand up for righteousness, and that's what we're up against. We're up against, in fact, Lance Wallnau talked about this. I saw a video somebody sent me, and Michelle did, actually. Thank you, Michelle Gelati. That Lance Wallnau talked about how the spirit of Jezebel is controlling the United States, and so we have a solution, and that is getting more people to understand this. And it's not easy because we cannot force a person to get delivered as much as we would like to. In fact, I teased about this the other day. So I was in Boise Monday, got my hair cut. See, it's a lot shorter than it was last week. And in fact, I'll share this. So I was getting my hair cut at Sport Clips, and I do this all the time. The lady that cuts my hair always asks, "So, why? You know, what do you do?" You know, and I told her how I used to sell software, you know, to banks, and used to work for Intuit Financial Services, makers of QuickBooks and TurboTax, and that gets them to understand. Oh yeah, he's normal. He's a normal guy. You know, then I explained that I went through some things where my son, you know, had a boy that did some things in the neighborhood that shouldn't have, showed him some things and hurt him, and then hurt my family, and then my wife, my second wife, was extremely affected by wounds from growing up, and her parents were hurt by their parents and so forth. And then I said, now I help people get set free and have more peace. And so then that draws them in. And so she actually opened up and said that she was from Ecuador, used to live in LA, moved to Boise like 10 years ago. She did, we talked about the Mormons. There's a lot of Mormons that live around there. And, you know, from the outside, it looks like everyone's happy, you know, in their families, but on the inside, they're just tormented. And they're designed to keep all this pain and shut their mouths and take it. And the church, unfortunately, in large part, has people that have Jezebel, Leviathan in charge. Not all of them, obviously. There's some good churches that are out there, but there are a lot that are just being used by the enemy to hurt the people. And so anyway, it really opened her eyes to see, and it's something the Lord has been wanting me to do, is to continue to spread the gospel that way, by the gospel of deliverance, essentially. And it really helps a person to see things. So anyways, after that, I walked outside, and then I saw this vehicle that had poop911.com on it, and I was shocked to see that. I'm like, what? I'm like, poop on a car? And it talked about, we will scoop your poop, and it had a dog there on it. And I was thinking, wow, I did not know that there was a business that actually would do that. I go, I bet there's a lot of people that would love that. They wouldn't have to go outside and clean up their poop, from their dogs. And so then some other people chimed in saying, you know what, we could use them over in Pennsylvania where there's lots of horse. They call them, what, apple dumplings or something, apple drops or rocks or something. My friend Dominic called it. And he goes, they can come over here and pick up horse, dung on the roads. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so then I had the thought, I'm like, huh. I go, you know what? I go, I bet a lot of people that have Jezebel and Leviathan that are very prideful and arrogant, they wouldn't like driving that for very long. Maybe that's a way we can get them delivered quicker, is to say they have to drive that until they humble themselves to getting delivered. Then at that point, they'll say, okay, I want out of this car. Yes, I want delivered, whatever it takes, But that's what we feel like sometimes when you're in a relationship with someone, is that they don't see it in themselves, and they're very prideful and arrogant, and they hate people like me. It's like, all I'm doing is trying to help you get set free and save your marriages from striving and arguing. Can't you see it's you? It's not your spouse. And all the time it's like, no, it's all my spouse, or my spouse has Jezebel. I'm like, no, it's you. And then I'm like, we can't make people get set freed. I wish we could. But maybe we just incorporate that poop car and say, hey, In fact, somebody wrote that they know of somebody that was working for that business, and that they were making something like $8,000 a month. I'm thinking, wow, that's a good business to be in then. So, anyways, alrighty. So this Saturday, I will be here at the home of Don and Paul Liniger in Kennewick, Washington. So we're doing a deliverance freedom night here. It starts at 6 p.m. I'm also going to do some words for people, words from the Lord. I did that this last weekend when I was in Idaho Falls. I like doing that. I always love doing that. But if we have time, that's the challenge, is got to focus on deliverance, because everybody loves a prophetic word, and lots of people prophesy. But we have very few people doing deliverances, so that's why it's important to concentrate on that. So anyways, I am planning to do some words for people after we do deliverance. We have to make sure you guys go through deliverance and being freed, and then we'll do that. And it's supposed to be, I think, 91 or 92 degrees on Saturday, so Saturday night when we do this. I don't know if we could do it outside by the pool. That would be fun. Never did a pool deliverance before. Maybe we could do a baptism. Yeah. In fact, I'll show you a little bit more of the back here. I'll keep private the actual house here, but let me show you. Because lots of times it's cool to see. Oopsies. Bing. Alrighty. So on a clear day, you can see forever. There is some blue over there. Actually, it's kind of nice with the clouds because it's keeping the temperatures down. They have beautiful sunsets here. Just beautiful. And I think that's all I will show. Bing. Alrighty. So I'm not going to give any words today to people because I'm not feeling led to. So, alrighty. So I just declare blessings over everyone today. I thank you for watching and supporting, and looking forward to seeing you, Jane Dillenbach Watt, when you come, and your husband, David. I believe that's his name. So we just declare blessings over everyone. We declare an open heaven of blessings over you as we all walk out our righteousness the Lord wants us to walk in. Thank you, Father. We thank you for the beautiful clouds today, too. It's really pretty. I love going to, I love doing what I'm doing. You know, it's not easy sometimes because some people that have demons hate hate people like me that try to get them set free. It's like, really? I'm trying to help you. So, but that's okay. Because when they get set free, then they love me. And they're like, oh my gosh, you are really good and nice. So anyway, we just declare blessings over everyone and joy and fun and childlike innocence. Warsaw, Indiana here. Really? I ran to Warsaw once from my house on the farm a mile east of Larwill. That was the longest run I'd ever done in my life at that point. I think it was something like there and back. It was something like maybe 20 miles, something like that, or 22. I remember I was working at Kroger in Columbia City and my legs were so sore that next day. Oh my gosh. You know, I've run several marathons, just if you guys didn't know that or not, but I've ran like 5 marathons, I think, in my life. Haven't done any marathons lately because I've been driving like a marathon all over the country. And so anyways, but Warsaw, Indiana, yeah, I used to go to church in Warsaw. They have a lot of lakes there, and Billy Sunday, I think, is the guy that had a church there in Warsaw, and he's the guy that got Billy Graham, I think, set free or came to Christ. So anyways, alrighty, well, I will let you go. Yes, it would be nice to have a plane someday. But then everybody get mad at me and say, oh, you got a plane. Am I a Messianic Jew? Actually, my name, Schuman, I have learned, has one N, which means Jewish, German, of Schuman. And so I have spoken at a Messianic Jewish church in Billings, Montana, and I may be going to one that's over in Cleveland. So anyways, Billy Sunday, Winona Lake. Yep, that's it. I remember. In fact, there's a barbecue place on Saturdays in Warsaw that my brother used to like me to take him to. My brother had a stroke, and so I was, when I was home, I would take him there frequently. I think his name's Steve Sands, that has a barbecue place. Used to be at a parking lot of a grocery store. I'm not sure where he's at, though, because I think that grocery store might have no longer be in existence, maybe. But that's where I first tried brisket, and I loved brisket after that. And so then when I went to Texas, I had brisket, and now when I go to places, I like to eat brisket, I don't know, a couple times a month. Big Boss Barbecue, that's it. Yes, that's it, Terry, absolutely. So I used to go to Whitco High School, and I played basketball my freshman and sophomore years, and I was the high-scoring guy in my freshman year. I think I averaged 10 or 12 points a game. I was a center. The unfortunate thing is I've been 6'1" since I was like in, I don't know, 8th grade. So I was the center. But then my sophomore year I had to convert to being a forward because, yeah, Steve Sands is the man. Yeah, Steve knows my brother, Keith Schuman. And although Keith hasn't been over there for a while, but yes, how funny is that? That's amazing. So, alrighty. Well, I guess that's enough about my background. Yes, but I used to sell software. Used to work for my brother Keith, and went to Purdue University, and then I ended up having life happen, and then the Lord converted me into ministry, and now I'm doing this full time. Get to travel around the country and the world and see beautiful places and help people get set free from demons they did not know that they had. Alrighty, we'll let you guys go. See you. Bye-bye.